Hi all, it's Kylie from Kylie's Card Craft. Wanted to show you a quick little tour of my new workstation small craft area. We're renting, so we don't have a great deal of room, and I share the formal lounge, the office, whatever the slash is, with my husband and his drum kit. So what I wanted to show you today was how I organise everything in my workstation. Just had this one built. My husband very nicely built it. It's been a while in the planning. I'll try not to move the video too much as I go, and I'll walk you through how I place everything in here. There's still a little bit of tweaking to go, but so this is the room. It is just a very small open room. So if I stand back, you'll see, and it's part of our hallway. Sorry, that's the noise from the heater because it's freezing here today. So we built a U-shaped desk that on one side, which needed to be out into the open, has a bank of drawers. Now look at all the fingerprints up the side of that. These drawers are for my not used that much product, so they're just around the corner. So I have 5 drawers. Top one has punches. Next one is card making supplies, so stuff to make square cards or your normal standard cards, or it's cardstock, so I'll quite often nick it for my journals as well. The next drawer from memory is acetate sheets and magnetic sheets and things to arrange all my stamps. And I'll show you how I arrange my stamps in a moment. My 4th drawer is my junk drawer. Let's face it, we all need a junk drawer. Yeah, it might get worked on, it might not. My last drawer is for my watercolour pencils, my paint palette, etc., my markers and things. So that's all in that, which are things that I use but not that often. So if we go round to the front of the unit, we'll go across the top. I've got my little collection. I love the little sewing machine drawers and all the little drawers. So these will shortly be sorted to finished projects of journal cards or tags and sorted out. Larger finished projects in here, so things that you've seen me do on my channel, etc. I've got some very old books in there as well. So that's what that is. Normally the journals that I'm working on at the time sit in there as well, because I do smaller journals. This one is smaller finished projects that have been done on the channel or as ideas, etc., things like that. This is my envelope basket. So pre-tea dyed and coffee dyed, or just spare envelopes, lots and lots. I have a thing for envelopes. Don't know if you've worked that out yet or not. Have a thing for envelopes. Down here I have my little containers of words for my journals. I have add-ons, and then I have larger add-ons. Labels. Now my labels could be, most of them are stamped already on handmade papers or coffee and tea dyed papers, ready to put numbers and stamps and things like that on. My little container of just labels that I've die cut out ready for tags. If we go along the front, tag bases, just ready to grab a tag and go when I'm making something. My currently used things, so the things that I'm grabbing all the time, so the stamps that I'm working with at the moment, things like that. If we go across, we've got pens, etc. We've got adhesives, glues, etc. Tim Holtz stuff, and then my larger little cutouts. So tabs and butterflies, you can read what that says. Clusters that are finished, playing cards ready to go, postage stamps, etc. And then in the corner I have all my sprays and paints, or the ones that I use the most. I've got some funny colours that are put away, etc. So if we go up the top, I have, apart from the radio, when I'm not watching YouTube, I have the radio going. I have some mixed media, so as in my gesso, a couple of different gessos. I've got texture paste and I've got some fibre texture paste. I've got buttons ready to change and alter back there as well. Beading supplies, container of clusters that are finished or clusters that are working on at the moment. Container of die cuts that I use as cluster bases. So that's just completely full of, usually from paper pads. So I'll pull them all out of paper pads, sit them in there, and then when I'm ready to do clusters, I'll just start pulling from there. I have flowers that I'm using up there, more projects that are finished. All my stencils up in just a little, it's just an acrylic container that's stepped for papers, etc., but it works really, really well for my stencils. I have another letter holder with inks that I'm using at the moment, as in my distress inks, paintbrushes, Mod Podge, just bits and pieces. You know, we always have bits and pieces. Across here, I have my wooden stamps. And again, the ones I use all the time. So you'll notice most are labelled vintage. Vintage, vintage, vintage. And we go over here and I have clocks, script, backgrounds, which are all vintaged. Up here I've got coffee and tea dyed papers, so plain ones, book pages and doilies. The clock so that I can actually see how long I've been on YouTube for. I have a real thing for the old shop stamps. So I've got quite a few little ones in there that I just love and I'm looking for all the time, and my wax seals, and back to those ones. Now, across the top of my desk, project that I'm working on tomorrow for tomorrow's YouTube, and over here I have my scraps bin. So anything, they could be, you know, tiny scraps where I've checked an ink colour. So that's what I was doing for that one. Tis the same ink, but I've done a very light inking. I've done lots of inking on it. So I was just checking colours for those sorts of things. In this container, I have the A4 document holders, the clear ones, and I have them labelled so that they're easy to find. So I have tea and coffee dyed again in those. I have book paper, lots of book paper, but I've got book paper that I can just grab, different types of books, different papers, different fonts, different sizes, just quick grab ones. Grid paper, either coffee and tea dyed or plain. Maps, large digitals, florals ready to be cut out, postage stamps that I've either found on Pinterest or used my own postage stamps and copied them again so that I've got lots of copies of them, advertisements, invoices, etc. Okay, photographs from either books or companies like Darkroom Door, things like that. Paper, different types of paper, packaging, stuff like that. Doilies that have not been tea dyed yet. Small digitals, script paper, paper bags, newspaper copies. They're copies, the originals I keep in a different folder and then copy as I want them. Cutouts ready for boring nights. Envelopes again, because I like envelopes. Tissue papers, sheet music, backgrounds again, lined paper and serviettes or napkins. They're just my quick grab ones. In this container I have all my smaller paper pads that I am slowly whittling down. I couldn't tell you how much of these I had. but I'm slowly getting them down, bits of papers, a few larger paper pads, etc. And my quick grabbing of my scissors, rulers, etc. And now I have room for my sewing machine on the end, which is fantastic. Right, so down this side, because I'm sitting dead there, down this side I have my distress inks in their containers, in their colour ranges, so that I can grab them out, sit them back in. I have my scoreboard, and I have a 12 by 12 folder for plain 12 by 12 sheets that I usually cut up. These ones are are some of my stamps, my clear acrylic stamps in these, and this is how I sort them. So if I pull out this one, which is vintage, these are the ones I tend to use all the time. So if I pull out a vintage one, set it over here. Now these are just a 6 by 8. I think they're put out by Kaisercraft. They're to do photo albums and stuff, but I use them for my stamps. So they have plastic pockets, different size ones, and I have my stamps in them. I will stamp each stamp onto a piece of just plain copy paper and slide it in, pop the stamp on a piece of acetate, so that, as you can see, they come different sizes, so that I can just grab. So when I buy a set of stamps, it might have lovely vintage design, it might have a couple of butterflies, it might have a bird and some leaves and some flowers. I know I've got a certain flower, but I can never remember what exactly it was in. So this way I've split them up and put them to just what I want, so that I can quick grab and go from there. So like with these ones that I use all the time, I have a vintage one. I have backgrounds, I have quotes, notes and alphas, and then I have other quotes and words. I have flowers, I have butterflies and birds, and then D is for die cuts, just the frames. I have some darkroom door stamps here that I use all the time as well. So hummingbirds, steampunk, the older ones she used to do in the tins, friendship flowers, full bloom, and garden greetings, lots of flowers. I then have another bank of 5 drawers. My top drawer are my inks, just for stamping. So I have my acrylic blocks in here. I have all my archival inks. I have the Ranger dye inks then as well, because the archival are permanent inks. I then have my Brilliance inks, etc. So they're all sitting there where I can just grab them and go from there while I'm working. Second drawer is quick and easy grab for threads for if I'm doing a pamphlet stitch and I want to stitch a small signature in. New collections that I'll be working on as well. So I've got a 49 and Market one there, and I've got their collectibles for that in there as well. And are you ready for this little secret? Are you ready? It's also one of my lolly drawers. There's some of my stash. And if we go to the one underneath, my lollies. Okay, so, because you've got to snack while you craft. So these are digitals that I've printed out from books because I love all this sort of work. So I've printed them out on presentation paper and craft stock as well. I have my glue gun in there and other A4 sheets, different types of papers, etc. Down in this one, the rest of them, so I've got calligraphy papers and watercolour papers, stuff like that. Bottom one, I think, is a work in progress still. Yep, very little at this stage. So I've got patterns and sandpaper, more paper twine, things that I can grab easily. Just move that chair over. And then behind, I have shelving. So right up close, I've got things that I can grab. So I've got more Tim Holtz stamps sitting here. I've got the rest of my napkins, serviettes sitting here. And then over in that far corner is Christmas. So they'll come closer getting towards the end of the year. At the moment, I don't need Christmas, so I keep telling myself, and they're pushed way down the back. So I've got more mixed media in that box, and then I've got room to keep going down the end. If I go underneath, that's my basket for when I'm doing classes, and I can just pick up the basket and fill it with everything I need, and off I go. So on this side, I have my container for originals, like I was talking about before. So all my originals go in there, and then I can pull them out and copy them whenever I want to. I've got seam binding in this one, and bling, etc. in this one. This one has more mixed media and paints, etc. Brads and eyelets are all down there for doing those sorts of bits and pieces. And then, I'll just try and stand up. And then I have, if I can move this phone, sorry. I'm going to sit down because my legs are killing me, sorry. Right, and then on this side, I have another bank of drawers. Now these ones are wider, so they'll fit the 12 by 12 papers in. I reckon they're about 14 or 15 by 15. So my top drawer is my drawer that I love to rummage in. I have my punches where I'm always using for my journals. So my corner punch and my 2 circle punches to put my thumb holes in. I have my washi tape that are used really just to hold my stencils on. Lovely, you know, just all the bits and pieces that just add to a page for different bits and pieces. And I have chipboard bits in here that I will pull out and emboss and stuff like that. I also have all my, what are these called? Paper clips. Paper clips in here and pins up there. So that's my top drawer. Next drawer is lace. And yes, this is tidy. Yes, it is organised, and I do have some lace elsewhere, but for what it was, this is pretty good. So that's my lace drawer. The next one is fabric. Yep, that's good as well. I have rolls of fabric, different colours. For the fabrics that I use, I wonder what colours I normally work in. So I have cheesecloth and you know, calico and all sorts of different bits and pieces in there. Push you in. Right, the fourth drawer, punches. Punches that I use all the time, well, fairly all the time. So border punches, more scallop punches, oval punches, tags, etc. But mainly my border punches. And last but not least, my 12 by 12s, because let's face it, I wanted this side for the 12 by 12 papers. Yeah, well, so far I've only got this, and I've got a roll of craft paper in there. So this is my workstation. That little box there was initially my 12 by 12 holder for plain colours, for pulling out to just run templates over and stuff like that. What have I forgotten? My Tim Holtz peoples. I have them in the display books as well, but I have them in the small one. So, and again, they're labelled. So I have children, I have adults, and I'm missing one that says couples. Missing my couples one. I reckon it's in a class bag. And I also have one that is, you know when you undo a book and you've got at the front cover and all those where they're just plain, but they're just the most beautiful paper and a lovely colour. So I have one for that. So if I swing around, over on the other side, I have the rest of those stamps. And then I have all the rest of my darkroom door stamps. And then I have flowers, and then I have ribbons, and then I have photos and more paper and old books up along there, ready to go. So very slowly, if I swing around this side, the computer desk, which I'm trying desperately to keep clean, because I don't use the computer very often, but I tend to use the desk for muck-ups and things like that. And I have a small stand with some journals, books ready to go, more books, some flowers to press down the bottom of my tripod, and finally the printer. So that's how I utilise this space. So it's not a large space, but I think at the moment this is going to work. Wish me luck, but at the moment I'm loving it. So thank you for looking, and until my next tutorial, happy crafting. Bye guys.